If I can't use NLP with my family, if I can't use coaching with my family, look how much friggin' money I spent. Look at how much. And someone's saying, Adrian, you can't coach your family. Yeah, I can't coach my family. I can't coach my kids, but look at how much I've done. Of course I'm going to coach my family, and who are they to say I can't? So we all know we're covering NLP for families, and this is where probably where half of the stuff comes from. In the NLP world, neuro-linguistic programming, these are a couple of my trainers, I go around the world training. I find the best I can in the world. I find the best trainers I can in the world. A lot of people, when they find out about coaching or NLP, they look at training in their town. Right? They look at training in their town. So a lot of people get training in their town. I don't get training in my town. I get some coaching and hypnosis and hypnotherapy in my town. I see psychologists in my town. I see doctor in my town. But when I want training, I go to find the best I can, right? And the best there's various different ways of saying the best. Some have a huge amount of value, our training, like a huge amount of value and follow-up. But these guys have the best kind of minds when it comes to creating change. Now, these guys have all been in it since about the 70s. 70s, a couple even earlier. And these are just some of my trainers, and I'll share some of the training I got. So this is what we are not. I really love this picture. I just like this picture. You might see a lot of our students are already coaches. I've been coaching since early 2000s, mid 2000s, I was coaching. My first ICF training around 2012. So I've been in this for a little while, and I see a bit of this. Don't worry, that's what we're not here today. The training we do, the training deliver, you might hear about NLP. You might hear about our training in Bali. We just came back from doing 9 days training in Bali. It's our second or third time doing the training in Bali. But next year, we're going to be in Chiang Mai, and I'll share something about Chiang Mai at the end of this. So here are some of our people. You might see some of them here. Our training is different to the others. We don't try to compress it into like 4 or 5 days. We stretch it out. In fact, our training, we give bonus days, and everyone tends to come for the bonus days. So we do a lot more actual work than most schools. I myself have had something like 3,000 coaching hours, which isn't that much, depending on your perspective. But I've trained and had excessive training. Maybe I'm not that smart. Maybe I need to hear it a few times, but I keep going to trainings. I keep getting taught. I keep getting coached. I keep going to trainings. And then I share as much as I can with our audience and with our students. We started this Motivate community back in 2012. We run our NLP trainings on Zoom each week. The thing about us is we make it really easy to have excellent peers in a community around you for 3 months to 2 years. We started with expatriates Shanghai 2012. We had 2 trips to Bali, and our next trip is going to be Chiang Mai. Now, you may or may not be aware, but the coaching industry is huge. The coaching industry is huge. There's tons of people making money out of coaching, but to tell you the truth, I think most of the money is being made by the bigger organizations, not the individual coaches. So a lot of individual coaches and coaches in their first years are struggling. So at Motivate Community in here, we want to give people as much real information and real content and no BS. Yeah. We want to help you guys win. I'm father of 2 beautiful children. Daughter Joy, she's 10. Little boy, he's 6. I'm a veteran. In our Australian Army, we use coaching in the Army. So I normally deploy with a team of 4 or 5 guys, and I coach them. If I need to, I tell them what to do, but most of the time I'm coaching. And over here, just this week, I was with Lorna and a partner, John. Lorna is probably Australia's most experienced NLP trainer, and her husband, John, also an NLP trainer, and Jay, who's here. That was just my week. So I wanted to put their picture up. As you can see, they're a little bit older than me. I really, really love listening to older people or wiser people. The biggest strength I have is knowing that I'm not that smart. It's knowing that there is much more that I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of people I think they know everything. I've still got tons to learn. I don't think it'll ever stop. Now, the thing is, I was taught not to coach family. Was anyone else taught that? Don't coach family? Whatever you do, don't coach your family. I'm very lucky. The first time I went through emotional tragedy, separation, divorce, I was like 25 years old. I got married with a girl. We hooked up when we were 18, divorced 25. And, I hooked up with this girl after school. We got together. We got married. We had I saved like hell. I saved all my money. I bought a unit, bought another unit. I bought a house. We built this mansion. I went on my first military deployment to East Timor. And if you could imagine my feelings and emotions, I thought I was set. Partner, wife, money, property. We're going to have kids soon. And I'm over on my first military deployment earning more money. And as soon as I make more money, I'm calling up the wifey going, hey, let's put more money into the kitchen. So we built this big house. And I came home from that deployment. 6 months later, I came home to an empty house. I never spent a night in the big house we built. Went through an ugly divorce. But the army put me in therapy. Next thing you know, I'm in this group of about 10 people that are all going through divorce. I'm the youngest person in the room. I was the only person without kids. Could you imagine if you're in that situation where you're actually the youngest person in the room and you got all these people around you? Everyone's going through divorce. They're settling properties. They got ugly things. They got kids in custodies, and I was in there with no kids. I was actually the luckiest man in the room, but it turns out I was really the luckiest because I was able to listen. I got big ears, by the way. Called me Dumbo when I was a kid. So being in that room, I was able to learn, and that was a massive turning point. I realized that there were circles of people doing therapy, and Jay just took me to the Mankind Project in Brisbane. He was running a Mankind thing on Thursday. I learned that lots of people go through hell, but most people do it by themselves. I learned to reach out to professionals, reach out to elders, reach out to youngers, yeah, and have those big open ears. Mine are a bit bigger than most. Now, from that, I started to invest in myself. I did a lot more training than most people. As I said, maybe I wasn't that smart, but first training, about $4.5 grand NLP, $13,000 in ICF training, master prac in NLP, trainers training in NLP, some Psych training in between there, psychotherapy training, advanced hypnosis, generative trance. I got a graduate certificate, the highest certificates in the world for the NLP world. I'm about to do another trainers training in Greece. I've done a lot of short trainings like 2 days, 5 days, or a month or two online. I've put a lot of time into my work. I've spent a fortune on one-to-one work. And then comes the lost opportunities cost. So what you might like to take away from this is Adrian must be broke. No, you might take away whatever you like. But the key point for me is that I've collected the knowledge from these people, and I could be wrong, but I've distilled the knowledge from all these trainings and trying to share the best with you. And if I can't use NLP with my family, if I can't use coaching with my family, look at how much friggin' money I spent. Look at how much. And someone's saying, Adrian, you can't coach your family. Yeah, I can't coach my family. I can't coach my kids, but look at how much I've done. Of course I'm going to coach my family. And who are they to say I can't? Right? But there are conditions and there are fine details, okay? Now, as I often teach my kids, you got to know the intention. Knowing intentions is like a shortcut to excellence, because when you know the intention of something, crossing the road with my little boy says, you know, I want to walk by myself. And I say, hey, you have to walk with me. And my little boy says, why? My natural response is to say it's because it's dangerous. That's my natural response. But I took a second and I went a bit deeper and I told him, it's because I will get scared. Yep. If you're walking near the road, I'm going to get scared. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not dangerous. Maybe it is, I don't know. But I get scared. So I just say to him, because it's dangerous, but in reality, it's because I get scared. So a lot of people often say something, but if we don't get the intention, we often end up following a rule, which may not necessarily be true. One of the reasons I shared that story about holding the hands, because I went to Israel once. I was in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Qatar, Dubai, Oman, Jordan, Egypt, Cyprus. But when I went to Israel, I got there on a public holiday and I was walking down the road with a friend and we were about to cross the intersection. It's in Haifa. There was not a car in sight. There was no cars. No cars. Yeah, you could tie your shoelaces. Yeah, take off your shoes, put them back on, and there were still no cars. But my friend said, you got to wait for the green man. So we press the button and I'm looking, there's like no cars. There's no cars at all. But we had to wait for the green man. That's okay. Some people, following the rule is super important. But for me, my safety is more important. When I drive, if it's wet, I drive a bit slower. In Australia, the speed limit is what the speed limit is. And it's already pretty safe. But when it rains, I go a bit slower. When I can see from miles, I go a bit faster. It's just me, because I know the intention of the rules. I think the intention of the rule is safety, but it's up to you. People have different understandings. So we got to put something in the rule book. So we have a rule book and the rule book says, no coaching family. You should not coach family. So what's the actual intention of that rule? Well, for some people, it might be, as I heard Jay say, maybe it's to protect you as coach. Maybe it's to protect them. But here's a challenge for you. Has anyone seen this? Neurological levels? Wonderful. If you haven't, I suggest you get this and learn it off by heart. It is one of the best coaching models. I actually learned this in ICF training. And then inside out in NLP, only the values and belief may be on a different level. Sometimes I put them together. Neurological levels is a great way to understand the mind and our work. Now, if you're a coach, if you're a real coach, coaching is something you do. Is coaching something you do? Coaching is something you do. Great. So if coaching is something you do, it's down the bottom on the behavioral level. So if coaching is something you do, it's a behavior, but it's also a capability. You have the capability to coach people. And there's also beliefs in coaching. There's beliefs. Now, I'm a coach. I'm a real coach. So therefore, being a coach is also part of my identity. Now, if you're a real coach, or even if you've been, let's say you've been doing personal development for 20 years, but you've never got money for it, you might still be a real coach. You might be part of who you are. So if being a coach is part of who you are, can you really turn it off? Once you learn NLP, you get NLP is like upgrading to Windows 11 from Windows 98. Yeah. Now, once you go Windows 95, Windows 98, suddenly up to Windows 11, it's a bit hard to go back to Windows 98. Yeah. It's a bit hard to switch it off. If you're listening to your kids, and you hear meta model violations or you hear beliefs and you want to challenge them, some of that stuff is going to happen automatically. So you actually can't not coach. It's just how much you can do. You're going to influence others. And some people also say NLP is manipulation. Anyone hear or believe NLP is manipulation? It totally is. It totally is. And if any of you guys talk, you're also able to manipulate. You're able to manipulate your voice. Manipulate sounds. Manipulation isn't good or bad. Manipulation comes from like maneuver. Yeah. So manipulation isn't bad. NLP people just have more skill. Got to be careful though. More skill for the ego or more skill for the heart. So what are the real dangers? And the first real danger I like to cover though is that people can close off to their own excellence. By coaching family at the wrong time or being too much of a coach, even if you're not in a coaching call, if you're just talking with family and being you, and your family knows you've trained in NLP, I swear, some of my family and friends are reluctant to see me. Sometimes they're reluctant to see me because I might tell them something they don't like, or my authenticity may trigger them. So part of being a coach is other people may actually close off, and they may close up some of their own excellence. I've got a really good friend who runs a resistance pattern. They resist what I share. I gave them some advice and they deliberately kind of went against it because I suggested it. And this can happen to people. You can tell them the best thing, but because you told them, they might resist it. And maybe they are on the edge of doing something, but because you said it's a great thing and they should do it, they might want to resist you. Parents of teenagers, you understand this better than I do. Look out for it. A lot of teenagers run this pattern. They just start resisting because it comes from you. Slightly different pattern is mismatching. We've had some great mismatches in our training, and mismatches, you say it's a wonderful day outside. They'll go, no, it's not. Yeah. You say it's a beautiful weather. They'll say, no, it's not. There's some storm clouds over there. Mismatches point out what's different and what's wrong. So if you're helping someone, the resistance pattern and mismatches, it might actually close people up to their own excellence. We really don't want to do that, obviously. There's a YouTube video about the advice monster. If you haven't seen it, check it out. You might end up being someone who keeps giving advice. Little trick to that is to simply say, do you want to talk about it? Or do you want a result, a solution? Yeah. Do you want someone to hear you, or do you want help solving the problem? Really nice to do that either or. You want someone to hear you, or do you want a hand solving the problem? Nothing worse than someone that wants to be heard and you're trying to solve the problem. One of our wonderful graduates, she's got 2 kids, I think 19 and 21. And one of them actually said to her, Mum, I just want you as the mum, not the coach. So she stopped coaching and just became a mother again. And in the back of her mind, her training was still running, but she didn't share advice. She just did the listening aspects of NLP, deep listening. So be careful of the advice monster. If you want to check on that, check the last messages you've sent someone. that you're having a challenge with. So if you're having a challenge with a teenager or an ex-partner or a current partner, check your messages and see if you're constantly giving advice. With our teenagers, with our partners, it can be very easy for us to get attached to a result. So let's say I'm coaching Jennifer here. Hey, Jennifer, how you doing? Now, if I go and coach Jennifer, there is a chance that I might get attached. Yeah, so I want to help Jennifer make $2 million a year, or I might want to help her quit smoking. And in that process, I might become attached to the result I want. And I don't think it's such a good idea to be overly attached to the result, because Jennifer's a lovely human being. I shouldn't be attached to my desire to help her quit smoking if she doesn't want it, whatever it is. Because if I don't accept Jennifer for where she is, am I failing to accept her? Yeah. So if I'm trying to push Jennifer to quit smoking and working hard to get her to quit smoking, if I become attached to quit smoking, I'm not really accepting her for who she is. And if I'm not accepting her for who she is really going to listen to me? Would you like to listen to someone who doesn't accept you for who you are? Maybe you can, especially if you're really mature. If you're really mature and you've grown up a lot and you've done a lot of work, it's easy to hear critical advice, or it's easy to hear and get feedback. But for a lot of people, if they don't feel like they're accepted, boom, up comes a self-defense. Up comes a resistance pattern. Yeah? Up comes a pushback. If people don't feel they're accepted, they'll often close up, and you might have the best solution. You might have the best solution, but giving them a solution takes away the power. Now, can I just see who likes to get a new idea? Who's like, oh, new idea, and you have enjoyment when you have that? Yeah. The new idea brings new energy. So when it's a new idea, it has a lot of energy, right? So if we're trying to teach our teenagers or coach our teenagers and we give them the idea, they don't get that satisfaction. It's not their idea anymore. So when you give them the idea, it doesn't have enough power. But if they get the idea themselves, boom, that's the power. That's why coaching and ICF coaching is so big. By the way, ICF coaching is big, I think, for two reasons. One is that the client has the insight. The client has an aha. That's the first thing that makes ICF style coaching excellent. Not that a lot of coaches actually get that. But the second and the big thing about it is with proper ICF type of coaching, there's no advice monster. And the ICF coach should be keeping their talk and their stories to an absolute bare minimum. I meet a lot of people that are so-called coaches and trainers, and they're like blabbering like I'm. They're going non-stop. And it's like, that's one-way information, right? And they're supposed to be a coach, and I'm scratching my head going, hang on. Yeah. So two really good things there about high-quality ICF style coaching. Yep. One is the power of insight. The other one is the coach or the expert not sharing so many stories. Without the stories, it allows more time for the client to share and do the work. Mentioning doing the work, coaching others, coaching your family, sometimes it is a distraction from the real work. Who thinks it's easier to blame someone than to take responsibility? It is far easier to blame than to take responsibility. Coaching a young person the other week, and I was late, and I sent a message going, I am late because of the traffic. I am late because of the traffic. So here I am. I'm taking responsibility. I am late because I'm pointing the finger. I'm blaming. I realize, oh, hang on, no. I am late because I misjudged timing. There was an accident and I didn't allow enough time for that stuff. So it's really easy to blame, and often trying to coach or change others is a distraction from the real work. The real work is where the gold's at. And of course, as you're well aware, you got the danger of losing rapport, respect, trust. Now, Jay, I heard you say in the group, what do you mean by not coaching as a way to protect you as a coach?
I believe that without enough experience, then, and I mentioned the word was credibility, is that our family don't see us as a professional. They see us as dad, brother, sister, whatever that part is. They don't see us in our professional, qualified type state, because they see you as on a friend basis. So they don't also, therefore, won't give truly to the process. So, but the reality is, as I've learnt now after 4 years, is that I cannot have a conversation in a more serious light other than a group with an individual without thinking NLP and even sometimes asking questions based upon my assessment of where they're at or what they're doing. So as for me, I cannot not coach.
Cannot not coach.
I'm applying my knowledge often in a circumstance of in a communication situation.
Great point. So you got the upgraded mindset. So with the upgraded mindset, it's a bit hard to connect with people and not see the other stuff.
Exactly.
But I really like what you said. So maybe for new coaches, maybe it's best not to invite them in for a one-to-one coaching consult, right? Yeah, but we'll talk about that soon. Before I flick to the next slide and start getting in, anyone like to ask a question? This being used, we're on track so far. Okay, sweet, on track. Well, one last thing on the slide there, convincer strategies. Convincer strategies. People have a way of being convinced. I hear there's a good coach. I hear through my years as a good coach, straight away I'm critical. If I hear 3 times or 3 different people, if I hear from 3 different people, okay, they're a good coach because I've heard it from 3 people. That is a convincer strategy. Another convincer strategy could be, well, I want to make a decision, and to be convinced, I got to have someone give me the pros and cons or a list of pros and cons. Some people have a convincer strategy where they have to see it and they have to see it and hear it. Some people have a convincer strategy. You see something similar on social media. They say the person needs to be touched, or they need to see you 6 times before they buy, or 10 times before they buy. Sometimes people have to see or hear a message over and over again before they buy. You don't know what other people's convincer strategies are unless you've done a lot of work elucidating what they are. People have their own convincing strategies. And you are probably convinced. If you're trying to coach someone else, if you're trying to coach your teenager to coming home at a respectable time, which I think is important, we're probably convinced that it's really important. And they might be convinced it's not important. So you've got to keep in mind the convincer strategies that people run. Here's an example of a convincer strategy in action. Now, this could just as easily be the other way, boy, girl. This is just a picture I found on the internet. No, that's cool. I'm going to keep that. For those just listening, there's a picture and there's a guy with big love hearts. He's got the love filters on. So he's seeing love for his partner. And then his partner is getting angry at a priest. And then in the next picture, she's getting angry at someone serving her food. Then she's getting angry at someone giving her a present. Then they're getting married. The whole time the boy has love hearts in his eyes. And then suddenly she's yelling at him. So you see, this guy has had all these opportunities to wake up, but he hasn't woken up until the end. Sometimes people don't change or wake up until there's enough pain. Sometimes people won't step up until there's enough pain. And I'm sorry, I think this really sucks. But sometimes people need to hurt. And I don't want to be the ones hurting them. I watched my little boy once. We have a fish tank, and on the fish tank, there's a lid. The lid was really thin plastic, and I saw my young boy put his foot on it to stand up. He put his foot on it, and I watched him put his foot on it, and then he put his foot through it, and it snapped. Lucky he didn't break the rest of the fish tank, right? But that's how kids learn. Kids learn and adults learn by breaking things. By breaking the rules, breaking things, yeah? So in this picture right here, this woman, she was yelling every single picture, well, almost every single picture she was yelling all along, right? He was just thinking something else, and it wasn't until there's enough pain, that he realized, oh shit. A lot of us may be having challenges in a relationship, but we don't realize until it's too late. That's like a Vince's strategy for you. A couple more cool things for you. I think this is a bit of a motto to go by. Seek first to understand. Seek first to understand. If we are going to work with others, those close to us, maybe we don't need to actually change anything at all. Maybe we just need to understand them. If we really understand them, a lot of the time, things just change. How many times have we been in situations where we've been angry and then we've had some new information or some new experience and we're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have got so angry at them. I just didn't know. And we still often blame them, like they didn't tell us, yeah? This leads to some of my solutions that are coming up. Not Jay, could I ask someone else? Someone else, what do you make of this picture? Someone else like to share? What do you make of this picture here? How about you, Maria? Or Evelyn, is there anyone? What does this picture mean to you?
Through the pain comes the beauty and the freedom.
Through the pain comes the freedom and the beauty. I used AI to make this picture, and the thing for me is that when this moment happens, there's not a flower inside. For me, when this moment happens, inside there's like a dead flower. When I went through, or as I go through periods of tearing away the defense, the first time when I tear open my defense and be vulnerable, when I be vulnerable, it's not a flower to me. When I open up, there's not a flower for me. There's pain. So I want to cover up again. When I open up, there's not a flower. There's pain and more pain. But then afterwards comes the flower and the beauty and the love. But first, opening up, for me, it hurts a lot, so I might want to keep it covered. And in that opening up can be a lot of pain. Jennifer, please.
What I see that sometimes you have to be broken. You have to be broken up, your past thoughts, mindset, ideas. They have to, you have to break away from them, say goodbye to them for something beautiful to happen. Sometimes it's even physical. Sometimes you have to leave a particular place and it hurts, but in the end, the pain, through the pain comes beauty. And not everyone is willing to be broken up and to transition, to unlearn past beliefs or past habits and stuff like that. So it's a choice. It's a choice to go through the breaking process, to unearth a new part of you, a new self. And it's beautiful afterwards. If you're willing to go through the process of being broken up and all of that, then you will emerge beautiful.
Very well said. And some people aren't prepared for that. Some people aren't ready for that. Some people don't want that. And I had a wonderful discussion with a really, really good psychologist who's also a coach. And she said to me something like, well, sometimes it's not always worthwhile breaking up. There are some people in their later years and they've got their whole life built up. So sometimes breaking open or finding a deeper truth can flip their world upside down, and maybe they're not ready for it. But maybe you, if you're a coach, maybe you are ready for that. Maybe you're doing that on a regular basis. But most of our society isn't. Most of our society, they go through a breakup, they find someone else. They're having a tough time, they get an alcohol, they get a distraction. Not many people really open up for this to happen. It's painful. It can be painful, it can be scary. I think in this kind of situation, what people really need is this: to be understood. If you or someone you care about is going through this situation, sometimes it's wonderful just to be there, to hold their hand, or to be by their side, or to let them know it's okay. So then if you're a coach, maybe we've got to make sure we don't actually coach them, but still coach them a little bit, maybe coach ourselves to be fully present, but perhaps have the focus on understanding, not trying to change. Depends. As coaches, a lot of us will see that cracking open as the honey, the flower, the nectar. We welcome the bee. We welcome the bee, but for some other people, it scares them. Now, if we are committed to coaching them and we are attached, we might be doing something that's really good for them, but well against their will because of their perception. One of the biggest problems I think we make is one of the biggest problems I think all of us make is timing. Timing. I'm sure most of us have sold shares, houses too early, or we've tried to make interventions too early. Timing is a whole new dimension. Sometimes we have to wait longer or take more time. I really like this one, and apologies to my lovely women in the room. This goes both ways. This goes both ways. And I can tell you, I have certainly been in picture 2 before. And I think I went between picture 2 to picture 3 to picture 2 to picture 3 to picture 2 to picture 3 to picture 2 to picture 3 picture 2. Because when I got burned, I went away, and then I tried again and got burned. I never learned how to hold on long enough to put that fire out. And anyone that does relationship coaching, I've got another relationship client now. Relationship coaching is one of the most exciting and fascinating areas. Relationship coaching. Whew. Men, I think today really have to learn when to do that. but there's a lot for all of us to learn, women and men. There are times when you got to squeeze in and do the hug, and there's times when you got to walk away. But this is a situation that's safer and more easily diffused, I believe. Anyone heard this saying about 3 fingers? Whenever you point the finger, there's always 3 fingers pointed back to you. Whenever you're pointing the finger, there's 3 fingers back to you. So the masculine and feminine realities are a lot more complex, and we won't get into them tonight, but helping people take back responsibility. I think I heard Maria mention projection. Projection is a major challenge. So here are some solutions, and don't worry, I'm going to break this down a bit more. Solution, this is for us as coach or us as guru. You are the guru. Now you are the guru, so do the work on yourself. Focus more on yourself than them. Ensure you can accept them as they are, because if you're trying to work with a teenager and you can't accept them as they are, it's going to be hard to do the work. So the first thing we want to do is work on ourselves and to make sure we can accept them as they are. I did some hypnosis training for children. Hypnosis training for children. And the thing was, you don't hypnotize the children, you hypnotize yourself, and you make sure you can see yourself in the coach state, in a really positive state, and then see the child in a really positive state. When you can see your child in a really positive state, in like a loving state, you can then accept them, and then you can move in for them. So anyone that has kids, we want to be able to see our kids as being amazing, as being blessed, and fully accepting them where they are. And here's a paradox. We want to accept them, and we also want to change them. But if we lose, if we're not accepting them enough, it's going to be hard to change them. If we're fully accepting them and not doing any change, guess what? You're still going to be changing them. If we fully accept them and don't do coach work, we're still going to get some positive change. We're going to get positive change because the coaching mindset, Windows 11, the NLP mindset, it's still going to come out. So in fully accepting them, firstly, they're going to let down the guard and be like, oh, finally, someone accepts me, get the guard down. And the other thing is that there's going to be an unconscious dance or a transfer. So they're automatically going to get some of your beliefs. Yeah, Jennifer?
That's difficult. As a parent for 15 years, that's difficult because, okay, look what's happening in the global context where
Jennifer, I don't think anyone will disagree with you.
where children now,
teenage is difficult, yeah.
yes, it is difficult. Where children now in the West, they can choose their own gender. They have all these gender types now. As a parent, I know I have a son, and if he comes to me and he says, Mom, I am neither male nor female, how do I reach a point of acceptance? How do I wrap my head around that part? And I think for many parents now, again, focusing on yourself and changing your views with what's happening with gender, the different disparities and conflicts and all of that. How do we navigate that as parents to accept our child being a non-gender being?
I'm not an expert on this topic, but I personally, and I'll be straight up, I'll be pushing 2 things. 1, acceptance. 2 is boundaries. We have our own boundaries. And I trust nature more than Hollywood. And I trust nature more than teen culture. I trust nature more than pop culture. I trust nature more than 2000s culture. So when anyone tells me they're a cat and they're clearly a human, or they're doing some kind of sex change stuff, for me, I got a boundary up. Yeah, I got a bit of a boundary up with that. I'm not going to feed into it. You're a boy or a girl, but that's just my personal boundary. You'll have your own boundaries. Some people have the boundary where people can do whatever they want. I love my children, and if one of them starts to pretend or believe they're a unicorn or a different sex, I'm going to call them out on it. I'm going to call them out. But that's me. I'll totally call them out. I'll accept them fully and I'll call them out. I'm not going to go into this pop culture and sacrifice nature and my beliefs in the world and stuff to, yeah. But I'll fully accept them where they are. You know, I've got a couple of friends that have done the sex change. I accept them and love them. And sometimes they get a bit annoyed because I might call them Nick instead of Nikki, or I call them Nikki and they're now Nick. You know, and I'm like, sorry, Nikki, and I'll say the wrong thing and if a smile. But teenagers, yeah, really challenging. So because the teenagers are challenging, that makes it even more important to focus on ourselves. Yeah. And I might trigger some people, and I've put it on YouTube. Surely some confused souls are going to be like, oh my God, Adrian said there's only 2 genders. But yeah, I believe in accept nature more than pop culture. Let's not jump too much into that now, but some of this will help Jennifer, and hopefully you'll get a good clicking moment here. If there is a child like that or having a problem, use that problem to develop ourselves to create a win-win situation, not a win-lose situation. We want to create a win-win situation, not a win-lose. Now, for me to start thinking, hang on, there's been binaural, you know, dual X and Y chromosomes for millennials. For me to start disbelieving that, I might get a win-lose situation where they win because I call them a pussycat or whatever their name is. Well, they might win because I'm now calling them a pussycat and putting a little cat bowl out for them, or letting the boy into the little girls' toilets. They might win, but I lose. Got to figure out how to get win-win, because neither party will tolerate a win-lose for long. If I was in that situation, I would do a bit extra coaching on myself. So if my child ever got to that sex change thing, I would be working on myself more than them. And then I'm not quite sure what I would do because I haven't hit that challenge yet. But if I was a parent, I'd probably freak out a bit. And if you freak out a bit at that, it's okay. So I'm sure Jay and Darko would freak out a bit too, hey? We would be like, what the hell? My first friend, one of my best friends at high school had a baby just after leaving high school, like a month after leaving high school. January, straight after leaving high school, had a little girl who's now a little boy. Yeah, the little boy, I think 24, 25, 26 now, something, you know. Yeah, so I watched them go through it. It's not easy. But hey, whenever you're blaming them, look inside yourself. What are you doing? Is there a part of you haven't been accepting? If you don't find anything inside yourself, look deeper. Or maybe it's something about your behavior. Maybe something else. That's why I put up a boundary there and say no effing way, because I don't want my kids seeing me accepting false beliefs or false idols. So a bit more to go. As you mentioned before, we can get attached to an outcome. We can also... So these are the things we've got to watch out for. We've got to make sure we don't fall in love with the potential. Check. Are we projecting? Projecting and the blame are hand in hand. If our child is having a problem because they're now getting C's or D's, is that really a child problem? Or is it us? And I tell you, if a child is getting C's now instead of A's, it's a problem with us because we should still accept them. Maybe they don't value the A. Maybe who they are, they want to be a C. Now, we can look deeper and go, you know what, they're probably with the bad kids, or they're changing their mind. The kids aren't even sure of themselves, but still, this really comes up more with couples and relationships. These couple of points here are more for, when I was writing this, I didn't have in my mind children. I had mum and dad, or boyfriend, girlfriend in mind, because boyfriends, girlfriends are constantly projecting onto each other, projecting values, projecting shadows. You might hear it sometimes. You hear one person saying to the other person, you're selfish. Same thing. We want to look inside. Have we been selfish before? Are we selfish? Yes. A really good answer there I got from John on the weekend. If a partner or a child gives you an insult, if a partner or a child gives you an insult, one of the best ways you can handle it is say, maybe I am, and move on. Child says you're wrong, maybe I am, and just move on. Maybe. I won't get into it, but you know the story about the Chinese. I think it was a Chinese man or an old monk or something, you know, and the army came along to get their son, but the son broke his leg, and the guy every time said, oh, maybe it is, maybe not, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe it's good luck, maybe it's not. If someone you love is throwing out insults, one of the best ways is, okay, maybe you're right, sidestep. Maybe I am, sidestep. Maybe you're right. What's next? Keep moving forward. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I'm a dick. What are you going to do? And this is what we need to do. Work on our world first. I think I've drummed that in. But this is the best part, is when you do enough inner work, you get to impress them by being a better you. Like Farah, when she goes to Bali, develops herself and goes back, and her little daughter's going, wow, mum. Yeah. When you are in a romantic relationship and you start reclaiming your shadow, and instead of blaming, you take responsibility. When it becomes easier for you to forgive others, to accept others, to love others despite what we judge, people will see the changes we make. As coaches, we're devoted to our work. So use it as fuel to be a better you. Now I want to focus on some specific, more specific strategies for you guys. Any questions, or is it okay I keep flying? Great. Okay, so strategies for creating change, right? First thing, do we have permission? Let's say no, we don't have permission to do the work. Now, if you're a parent and you haven't studied coaching stuff, if you haven't studied any coaching stuff and you're a parent or in a relationship, don't study coaching stuff, study NLP, it's better. It's where coaching came from anyway. Coaching came from modeling coaches, right? So NLP is a lot better here than coaching. If you don't have permission, there are some things you can still do. Work on your own beliefs to start with, because you're going to influence them anyway. You're going to influence them anyway. Jay is influencing me. Jennifer's influencing me. Maria's influencing me. Daniel's got his video off right now and he's still influencing me. Yeah, I'm not seeing his facial reactions. It's allowing me to keep going. Everyone, if your video off, you're influencing me. I'm able to keep going. Yet I can see the other cameras and they're influencing me. So we're influencing people whether we like it or not. Hence comes our power. Be a positive influence. NLP strategy. Work on a clean third on third or observer position. If you haven't had the training, getting into a third position or an observer position is actually a bit harder than most people think. Taking a third position is getting out of your head and seeing it. So Adrian's here talking, if I want to get into a third position, I'll actually step out. Yeah. And I can imagine Adrian, that was just here. So Adrian, that was just here. Now, I'm not in a clean position because I'm still talking like him. What you might want to do is develop a very clean third position. Generally, it's not till master practitioner and more advanced training or when we're live that we actually get clean third position. So what I do sometimes is I'll get my client to step back and then step back again, or maybe even step up on a chair and look back. Jennifer, just because I can see you, if Jennifer's having a challenge with her teenager, if she is sitting in the same chair that she's been in all day, she's really in first position. If she's trying to solve the problem, she's probably still in first. Now she can go in a second position. What's my boy thinking? She can. But what's really valuable is for Jennifer to walk outside the room or walk to the door and look back at the Jennifer that's at the desk. And you can also walk outside your building. Walk outside your building. Find a chair. Sit outside your building and look back at your building and think about the Jennifer up there. Now, you got to distance yourself psychologically, physically, distance yourself and go, what's that Jennifer up there missing? Yeah. From that third position, you might also note the relationship. When I was with Jay, I mentioned to Jay in the morning, I had an epiphany, Jay. Like last night, I was realizing I was trying to change person one. I was trying to change them. And then I also realized I was trying to change person two and I was trying to change person three. I was trying to change three people. So what do? I chunk up or I step out, I go out further, and then I see, oh, there's Adrian trying to change three people. There's a pattern. Adrian's trying to change them. Adrian's trying to change, and here's the problem. Adrian is trying to change those people. So instead of working on those people or those relationships, I work on Adrian. Make sense?
Yes.
It's a little bit easier said than done. Hence, we actually have to get out of our chair and move location or use a whiteboard. Write the problem on the whiteboard. You got a problem with a child or a sibling, write it on a whiteboard, because when you write it on a whiteboard, you end up separating yourself a little bit. Fair? Okay. When you do that, you might recognize that the you have certain beliefs. As I mentioned, Adrian was trying to change three people, so Adrian has some beliefs. Now, if I'm trying to change someone, and they think I'm trying to change them, on the other hand, when I have conversations with Jay or Darko or Farah, I can just have normal conversations with them. And I know in the back of their mind, they know I have full respect for them. I think they're magnificent people. One of my teachers, Judith, everyone that meets Judith is blown away. Judith's secret is when she looks at someone, when she looks at a client, she imagines them like they're an angel. She imagines them like they're an angel. Some of the parents are thinking, yeah, but my angel's got an AK-47 or my angel's got a knife. My angel's hurting me. Small thing to be aware of, coaching clients on Zoom is very different from coaching someone at home. But you can still influence them. It's just totally different. If they don't want to be coached, we have some strategies. Obviously, work on yourself. Be the model. Share models. And by model, I mean person. So you can be, okay, I want my partner to stop blaming. I want them to stop blaming. Well, the best way is for me to stop blaming. And maybe tell them, but they should see it. And I go forward and maybe I blame them and say, oops, sorry, I shouldn't blame you. I'm wrong. I take it back. Do that 3 or 4 times and your partner's going to see it. Be the model. I had a partner, she's like, Adrian, you're always right. You're so smart. You're never wrong. You're never wrong. We left the restaurant and I said, I think it's that way, but I could be wrong. We went that way and it was the wrong way. It was the wrong way. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure some of you realize I did it deliberately. I deliberately went the wrong way. I deliberately went the wrong way and said, oh, wrong way. They got rather pissed off, but I showed them, no big deal. I'm just wrong, no big deal. Yeah, I did it a few times and they realized, oh. So be the model or share models. Hey, I love my friend Darko. Darko here has completed over 1,300 hours in therapy and counseling. I love it. He just keeps developing himself. And I love my mate here, Jay. Keeps working, keeps developing himself. Oh, you should see my friend Jennifer. She's bought some NLP training. She keeps developing herself. Sensational. Oh, my friend Maria, she's invested in training too. She keeps investing in herself. Yeah. Oh, my friend Daniel. Oh, I love Daniel. He's someone that invests in himself. Hey, Michael, have you invested in yourself? Storytelling. Storytelling. You don't need permission to tell a story. If I tell a story about my friend who wore yellow shirt and wore earphones and has a couple of children and lives in Brisbane, he's going to catch on. If you tell a story to a teenager, if they realize you're talking about them, up goes the defenses. If you want to share a story for your son, make the story about a girl. Yeah. If you want to share a story with your daughter about not playing up or something, tell them a story about a boy. Changing sex automatically lowers resistance. For the younger kids, we change them into animals even. We can. Stories that are far away. Storytelling goes into deeper and deeper depths. And I really like storytelling because my friend Jennifer, I think she does some teaching here and there as well. So as a teacher, you can really easily tell stories. And so if you do teaching and coaching, you can practice your stories in class and then mention it to your client and tell your client or your family. Storytelling is massive. Storytelling is one of the best ways to create change when you don't have permission. For those that do the NLP, you got the meta model. When someone has a problem, it often seems like it's huge. So by getting specific on what the problem is, getting specific makes the problem smaller. Getting specific makes the problem smaller, right? So whenever my kids say they can't, I say, what, you can't? And the kids come back, oh, I can't yet. I can't yet. So the yet makes it more specific. And then I tell my daughter, can you get more specific? And she says, oh, I can't yet because I don't know how to do it, Dad. Okay. What don't you know? And we get more and more specific. When we get more and more specific, the problem seems smaller and smaller. So use a meta model to get specific on negatives. When you have positive things like your child's done a great job or your partner's done a great job, we want to make it bigger and bigger. So we got the Milton model, which is the opposite. We use the Milton model or generalizing when we get positives. Whenever something positive happens, emphasize it, magnify it. What the brain does is our brain magnifies the negatives automatically. and kind of skips over the positives. So we have to magnify the positive ourselves. My little boy went on this flying fox thing, right? As soon as he was going on the flying fox, I took a video. How many times did my child go on the flying fox? At least 20 times, because I kept showing him the video. I kept showing him the video. Days and weeks later, I was showing him the video again and again and again. And I said, he's such a brave boy. Look at this boy. He's so brave. He can do anything. All he really did was fly on the flying fox, maybe a couple of times. But I kept saying, look at him. He's so amazing. He can do anything. He's capable of conquering the world. I make it bigger and bigger. Yeah. So we use maybe hypnotic language. We generalize and we make the positives bigger. We make the problems smaller. It's good sense, right? Alrighty. Okay, let's fly forward still. I like this picture. Okay, now if you do have permission, to coach, be prepared to drop all outcomes to preserve the relationship. I had a client pop and they went into a very, very angry burst and they hated me for about 6 months. I had another client hated me for 3 months. Both of these clients coincidentally were from Paris, and both times their partners reported back to me that the coaching was phenomenal. They just didn't like me, but they had a great result. One of those guys from Paris, I actually saw the other day with my kids. He came out of the shop that he runs. He came out of the shop and spoke to me, shook my hand, and he said, thank you, in front of my kids. It was wonderful. I loved it. He didn't like it at the time because I lost the relationship with him. I lost the relationship. When I was coaching him, I coached out of him. He didn't like the result, but he got the result. I'm not going to do that with my cousin or my child or my lover. Yeah, if you're coaching someone you really care about, the relationship might be more important than the result. So be prepared to drop it. Be prepared to drop it. Tip for that as well. If you're going to drop it, what you might want to have is you might want to have some positive traits already written out. So if you are entering and you do have the positive yes signal, so I'm going to coach Jennifer. What I might do before coaching Jennifer, I might actually make a note and I might actually write out 20 things I love about Jennifer. Then if I have to drop the outcome, if I have to stop the coaching, I might just say, hey, look, Jennifer, stop. Cousin, brother, sibling. Just pause for a second. I think I've made a mistake. I think I've done the wrong process. Now you are fully capable. You are excellent. And you can read out and you can recall some of the most positive traits about them. So you tell them all this positive stuff. And then you say, I'm sorry, I can't do the coaching process now. The NLP isn't working right now. I'm not in the best state. But you are amazing, capable, lovable, wonderful, blah, 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 blah. All this really good stuff. Let's try again tomorrow, next week. Nice. Take full responsibility. I used the wrong question. I made the mistake. Obviously, we've got to soften and personalize the process and observe the energy. The energy is one we don't see a lot of. At the moment, Adrian is giving out. I'm giving 90% of the energy here. And I'm getting 10, maybe 20% back from seeing you guys on my screen. So now the energy is I'm 90%. This obviously isn't coaching because I'm giving 90% of the energy is coming out of me. When we're coaching, it should be more like 50-50 or 70% coming from them. So if we're coaching someone and we're doing all the work, they got to be doing the work. So if you enter proper coaching or NLP process with someone, make sure they're doing the bloody work. Otherwise, it might actually be the advice monster coming out. List of positive traits that I mentioned before. All right. This is part of the master level training. It is not in probably 95% of master level trainings, but it's in ours. Maybe take a screenshot of that. This is our goal, or this is our go-to. Apologies, most coaching schools won't teach it. Most coaching schools don't know about it. Sorry, that's an older one. I've got something very similar printed out. I keep it in my top drawer. This is what we aim for with others and ourselves. We want a positive self-concept. This is our kind of goal for ourselves and our clients and those we care about, especially our children and partners. We want a healthy self-concept. We want a self-concept that's accurate, that is responsive to feedback, that's lasting, that's normal, that's like unconscious, meaning we don't have to think about our self-conscious. It just happens. We want self-concept where we are connecting to others, not separating, and we want to be free of egotism. This is in our master training, and this is a session in itself. Final little wrap up. If you want to do more, come join us next Sunday, or come join us in Chiang Mai. I've blabbered way too long, but I said about being on time, and that is on time. Please, any questions and answers? And would you like to do more on this topic next week?